Hey now, welcome to Lone Star Mini Restoration. Today I'm basically removing my valve springs. And I've removed one already because I had to figure it out. Because I have this new tool. It's kind of cool, valve spring compressor. And you know what? I just ordered it. I did not realize that there were several types of these out there. After the fact, I went looking and I saw, yeah, sure enough, there's different types. Well, I thought that this lever arm here basically compressed the spring for me. And boy, that doesn't work too well. And then, of course, I had to learn how, just so anybody out there, if you've never used one of these bad boys, this distance is kind of critical. Basically, what I did before I started cranking down anything, you kind of have to get this distance from this face to this face set between the top of the spring retainer and the bottom of the valve. So, because at one point this was all the way in, all the way out. When I would crank the lever arm, it was really too far out, too close. Then I couldn't close it. Well, essentially, what needs to happen is this valve spring. Basically, you've got to kind of lock it. Doesn't really lock, but you've got to have it all the way closed. And then you take this end and you wind this in, and basically this compresses the spring. So I had it totally backwards. I thought you kind of make it tight with this, and then you take this guy and compress the spring. No, it doesn't work that way. You kind of lock it in, and then you use this arm, and it compresses the spring. So I've already done one, and I will do the others here. I'll change pull the camera over. I'll do the others, and I found something a little bit different than what the book says. The book says basically you compress the springs, you compress the strings far enough that you can get the split collets on there, and I'll show you what those are. And you take the collets out, and then you release this slowly so that everything doesn't spring and springs shoot out and go everywhere. You remove the spring retainer, which is on top of the spring, and then you remove the spring. Then you can push the valve out. Now, what I found, well, here, let me just go ahead and show you. What I found was that I have two springs. I didn't expect that. The book talks about one spring, but I have a larger diameter outer spring, smaller diameter inner spring. They were kind of inside of each other, and then this is a retainer cap here, basically held them in place. Not much different, but it is different. Two springs versus one. And then the valve, you just push the valve right out. Now there's some other things here, other parts here. I don't know what they're called, but let me move the camera around, and I will struggle because it's not straightforward. It's kind of tricky. You really need 3 or 4 hands to do this. But let's do this, and I'm gonna remove all the valve strings. All right, let's go. I don't know if the audio is picking this up again, but the SpaceX is running their engines again tonight. It's pretty loud. I mean, it's vibrating. I mean, you can feel the vibration. Again, living close to that, oh boy, that would get old. It'd be cool at first, but it'd get very old. Okay, so I'm going to film primarily the spring side, but I wanted to show this. My spring compressor, the edge that goes against the valve, the bottom of the valve, it basically, I thought this would be solid, but it's not. It's just a fine, it's not a sharp edge, but it's a fine, it's just a perimeter of an edge. So, and this thing is tricky holding this on the valve. So what I'm doing is I've got a larger footprint of basically just a socket that I've used, and I'm putting that here, and then this will go over it like that. That way I'm semi-assured that I'm getting a full compression on the valve instead of a fine line, and this thing's slipping all over the place like that. So anyhow, that's what's going on the bottom of the cylinder head side. And again, this is kind of tricky. It's like, I wish I had 4 hands. Seriously. Yeah, it looks straightforward, but it's tricky. I really need something to support this up, but let me just try to, so the camera captures it. Let me just see what I can't do here. Got to make sure I stay centered on the spring. This sucker just moves all over the place. All right, let me try now. Maybe. All right, so what you don't see on the camera is that I've got it tight and all right, you can see if the camera's picking it up, you can see that the spring is compressing now. And what I'm doing is I'm just tightening the other side. On the next one, I'll take a wider perspective of all this so you can see. And it probably doesn't take that much to turn in order to get the collets out, the split collets. And I believe it was William Murfitt. I had to figure out where I saw it from. It was William Murfitt that grabbed a magnet to pull the split collets out. I thought that was a really good idea. And on my first spring, it worked well. I guess I haven't compressed it enough. Oh, well, yes, I have compressed it enough. I had one on the end of the magnet and didn't even know it. So there's one of the split collets right there. That's what it looks like. There's a mating one, so let me grab that if I can. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. You see it there? That was a neat trick. Thank you, Mr. Will Murfitt. Awesome. So now that they're out, I'm going to loosen this bad boy. It's about to pop. Well, it already popped. All right. Well, okay. This thing slid off and then it popped like that. But so here's the way it. Basically, on top of, once you remove the collets and then the tool, this is the retainer that holds the springs in place. Kind of cool. And I had one larger diameter spring and then a smaller one inside. Look at that. Pretty cool. I didn't expect the two springs. But then, of course, you can just push the valves right out. Oh, and I should have mentioned early on, as you're removing these, you have to you have to be organized. The push rods that I've already come out and I've placed in my cardboard holder over here, all of these springs, the collets, the retainer, and the valves, they all have to go in order and group together how they come out. So the push rod, the valve, the springs, everything has to stay in the exact same spot. So I have my organized box over there, which I'll show you at the end. And yeah, just be organized. All right, this may not be the best angle to capture everything, but you'll get an idea of what I'm doing. Okay, as you can see here, I've removed all the springs, the valves are out, and I'm left with these little squishy, rubbery grommet guides. I'm not sure what you call that, a guide, I don't know. But they look like they're just press fit on. So I'm going to take my little plastic tool and I'm going to see if I can't pop one of them off. Ah, okay. Well, there you have it. Did I put that down too low? I did. But there it is. Oh, Randy, get a... So there it is, little rubbery tool, or little rubbery something. But so, all right, I'm going to take those off now real quick. I wouldn't want to get in here with a screwdriver, that's for sure. All right, so whatever these rubber guide things are, they're all out, 1 through 8. All right, real quick, here's my organization. As you can see in here, we have my push rod, now the valve that goes with the same cylinder, the larger spring, smaller spring, retainer, and the 2 collets. So they're all organized so they go back into the same location. Okay, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I have now learned how to use a spring compressor tool. It was, at first it was very awkward. I needed 3 or 4 hands, but by the time I got to the last one, it was a little bit better. I thought I was using a wider footprint spacer, but that tend to be problematic. So I just use this against the valve, into the valve. But kind of cool. It's a little bit different. There's multiples of these. I've organized everything. I'm going to make sure I've got to find a place in my shop to move those and make sure nobody bumps it or makes everything topple over and gets all mixed up. But what I didn't say at the beginning of the video was that I'm taking my tomorrow I'm going to do I'm going to check for cracks. That's my next episode. But then Saturday, which is 2 days from now, I'm taking my cylinder head into a shop and I'm going to have them skim it. I'll probably have to wait. I don't know if they'll do it same day or if I have to pick it up later in the week. But that's the plan. So that's why I had to get these springs out and tomorrow, and that's why I have to do the crack test. I don't want to skim it if it has cracks on it. So I have learned something today. Essentially, I've learned how to remove valves and valve springs from a cylinder head. I've never done that before, so that's pretty cool. My next task will be to check for cracks. Meanwhile, I thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And to any new subscribers out there, hopefully I'm just going to inspire you. I'm learning as I go. So if I can do it, you can do it. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in. Bye just now.